Cheers! Happy Wine Wednesday, Canadian wine lovers. This is the Mira show today because our beloved Carl Boucher is traveling in Singapore at the moment. So our kids, we built this nice little Singapore monument, and hopefully he'll tune in here live with us in a few minutes from there. Maybe he can show us that lovely view from his window. So today is the Rosé show, and we have an exciting interview coming up with Daniel Bontorin. And also I want to share 5 things I learned from our recent visit to the Solum Rosa Vineyard. So for those of you that don't know about Daniel Bontorin, Bottega Wine Studio, and his Rosé only brand, 7 Directions, here's 5 things I learned from our recent trip. So great to see you guys. If you're here, drop a note in the comments. Let us know where you're tuning in from, Canadian wine lovers. And also, if you've got something in your glass. Speaking of which, we are running low on rosé here at our house. We recently tasted the 7 Directions rosés to give you guys the tasting notes. So good. And we did the tasting notes for this one recently, and there's a little bit left. So this is the one I'm having tonight. It has been hot in the Okanagan, and we're drinking lots of rosés. So cheers. Let me know where you're tuning in from, what's in your glass. And this one is a rosé that's more on the cheerful and value side, which is great. And today we're going to talk about la crème de la crème of Canadian rosés. And from my perspective, rosés from around the world, really amazing rosé. So hey Karen, great to see you from smoky Calgary. Oh, and who do we have here already? Carl Boucher, how's it going?
Hey, how are ya?
Great. How's Singapore treating you?
So far so good. I have a very full tummy. They've been voted best breakfast in the world a couple weeks ago from one of the I don't know which magazine, but I have to say that yes, the Ritz-Carlton Millenia in Marina Bay in Singapore definitely deliver. Mira, you won't recognize me when I come back. I'll probably have put on like 25 pounds
Awesome.
of pho soup and Indian curries and whatever. Anyway, so the food is just absolutely like amazing. The quantity,
Amazing.
oh my God. So yeah, I had to cut my, I think I was on my 7th serving, but I had to stop because I knew I had to be up in my room here to chat with you guys. So yeah, nice to see you. Nice to see you. It's weird. I usually walk down the stairs to see you or something like that. Now
I know you're usually in my spot. So yeah, enjoy
I know. I
enjoy
was
the
about to
view.
see. I was
I
about
showed
to say
everyone.
this. Yeah.
That's our view of Singapore. Your view is probably way better because you're there.
Yeah, that's the view here, but I don't have the. I'm not. I don't have the right side of the hotel for the good view, but that's fine. That's okay. I'll take. I'll take my my 2-piece room. Like it's a big room, and yeah, starting a few meetings yesterday, a couple meetings coming up, and after that, it's go for the next 30 days. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, hey, let's chat Rosé and 7 Directions because
Do we have to?
you and Daniel recorded a fascinating interview that we're going to play in just a few minutes. But I wanted to share 5 things I learned. I learned 5 really cool things from our visit. And this was a few weeks ago. So we pulled right up. And the first thing you'll see right away, first thing I learned, Daniel, he's been a winemaker for what, 18 years in the Okanagan?
Yeah, 2005 was his first vintage. So
yeah, so he is finally opening his own winery. You can see it on the left there. It is almost done. Hey, Daniel's tuning in right now. Hey, Daniel. And so that's the first thing I learned is the winery is almost done. But there's a really important piece to this, which is that Daniel's made 60 rosés now. Here, I'll show you guys when he told us that.
59th and 60th rosé.
59?
Wow.
Yeah, and 60, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Lot of experience.
Yeah.
A few, eh?
So 59th and 60th Rosé, that's what we're talking about today. And he did them all from the wineries he was consulting with. So they were not in his backyard. Right now, he's building his own winery with his own vineyard called the Solum Rosa Vineyard. Because as far as we know, he's like the first guy in Canada that has a rosé only brand. And he's the rosé master, so that makes sense. And so what that means, having his own vineyard and his wine for the first time ever being made on site where he lives, he babied these wines like crazy. Like he could check on them every half hour if he wanted to. And rosé is all about the details. So I attribute that to the fact that his rosés this last year were my favorite so far that I've tasted from Seven Directions.
Well, Mira, I think you just mentioned something extremely important here. You mentioned details, and I will add to that, it's all about details and precision. It's all about precision in the vineyard. It's about precision in the winemaking process, and there's so many steps. Either it's from a cool fermentation, either it's the pressing. And can you imagine that? Look at the color. Do you have the wines nearby? Did you bring the bottles?
Well, I don't, but you know what? Like, this is the progression, okay? This is the wines we'll be tasting with some members coming up July 29th, going back all the way to 2012.
Correct.
And you can see that the 2022 is by far the lightest one.
Well, the lightest in terms of color. So now we're talking about precision in terms of pressing, precision in terms of ferment. There's so much goes into it. And I'm not saying that the other ones are not precise. It's a different precision. And this the precision in terms of oak as well, because there's like the tractor and vines compared to the Fruitville Ridge. The Fruitville Ridge, the Cabernet Franc, is 100% stainless steel. And when you go to the Tractor and Vines Pinot Noir, there's a 25% of oak from oak aging in there. So there's an extreme precision in every step of the way that Daniel has perfected in the last 60 bottle rosés that he made, and it shows in this 2022. It's light in color, but extremely powerful in terms of flavor definition. That's what really, really strike me. It's the freshness, the brightness, the acidity, but it's the definition of flavors, the edges, and it comes down to, and I mentioned it in my tasting notes, it's all about precision. And when you taste that 2022, there's a precision into the flavor profile as well. So incredible vintage. So yeah, it's really, really exciting to do the release with him this week.
Awesome. Well, I said I learned 5 things in our visit. And I mean, we've already covered like the first 2 or 3. One is that Daniel's winery is almost done with the first rosé only brand and vineyard on site there, Solum Rosa. Second thing is that it was the first time that Daniel made his wines on site. So 2022, I think, will be one for the record books in terms of how precise these rosés are. Third thing I learned is this thing about rosé aging. So do you remember when that happened? We were with, and actually he's tuning in right now, we were with Olivier originally from Provence and currently living in Quebec. And Olivier was touring with us. Here, I've got actually a picture of you 3. Look at that.
There you go. There you go.
Daniel in the middle, Daniel the winemaker in the middle, and Olivier, our friend from Quebec, on the side there. So great to see you stopping by, Olivier. And we were just blown away by everything that was happening that day, the tasting. And then this happened.
Mira, remember when you pulled out the cutter and we were looking at each other like, what the heck is he doing?
Yeah, because we were, I don't know how we got on the subject. I think it was because we were talking about the colors, right? So he was saying,
exactly.
The most Provence color he's had, the lightest color, and yet don't be fooled by the light color. Like the flavors and the precision are all there. And then he pulls out the cutter and he does this. Look at this.
Operation by the end of
Oh my goodness.
the second vintage of Seven Directions.
That's my favorite
Second
part.
vintage.
That's my favorite part.
Holy.
2013,
Yeah,
right?
fermented in
That
one
was a
oak country
13.
for 3 months. Or aged.
Okay.
Try that.
And I thought he was just going to show it to us.
Wow.
I thought he was just going to show us that he
However,
kept it.
Wow.
The wines get darker as oxygen enters.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
That's true.
Okay.
So I like to say
That's
it's
true.
going back to its
It's fruits.
red grape
Yeah.
origin. Right?
Yeah. That's true. I was like,
Nice.
holy shit, look at that.
Yeah, so like he said, going back to its red grapefruits, it gets darker as it ages. But yeah, we actually opened that bottle, right? We opened it, which is what's crazy.
Yeah, and yeah, like you mentioned, like I couldn't believe that he would have opened that bottle, and how stunned we were when we had the first sip, eh? I remember looking at you, and you were looking at me like you were waiting for my reaction, and like the freshness and the purity of fruit in there was absolutely astonishing. And I think that's
Incredible.
where sometimes we are so connected into some of the same idea. I know that at that very same moment, our brains starting to compute at the very, very, very same thing. We were thinking the exact same thing, and this is going to happen. So it's really, really cool.
It was really incredible. And we tasted it and we had no expectations. I mean, most wines in general don't age super well for how long was that? 10 years, right? There's many wines, especially kind of at that $25 price point. They can't age for 10 years. And this is rosé. Like rosé is not like most people don't think rosé can age at all, right? It's
No,
supposed
it's
to
not
be
only that. Like rosé, when technically rosé is made to be made to be during the year after the production year, or that's the year after. Like you aim for rosé if it's 2021 vintage, you want to drink it in 2022 or 2023. That's where you're going to get the most out of it, right? Most
exact.
freshness, and which rosé, when the freshness, the acids start to drop, like you're done. Like this is it's over. But this is absolutely, it was absolutely incredible to have that 2013. And I don't have to go into a lot of technical details, because there's a shitload of technical details who goes into it. But Daniel, with that 2013, it was an experiment where he used a 500-liter puncheon, a new French oak puncheon, where the whole batch went into it. And 10 years later, because 2023, now we're 2020, it was 2013. So exactly 10 years after, you open that bottle and it's orange marmalade. There's the acid are still sky high, and there's that oak profile, that integrated oak in that orange marmalade, that vanilla, that's clove and cinnamon spice. And there was like, oh my freaking God, I can't believe that's happening. And wow.
It was a real wow moment. So, I mean, yeah, incredible. What more can you say after that? I mean, it's crazy. We should get right into the interview. Karen has the Tractor and Vines open right now. Amazing. And she's saying, so delicious, bright, a little salt, lovely fruit as it warms up after a nice chill. Yeah, that's one of those wines that Carl and I geek out on a bit, and we don't even have it chilled because it's so great to have all those flavors coming out.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how different these two, and it's one of the last thing that I have to say, and after that I'll let you go with the interview. But for many years, Fruitville Ridge, the Cabernet Franc single vineyard rosé, was the little brother, right?
Yeah.
Tractor and Vines got all of the attention. Tractor and Vines is actually, it's the rock star, the superstar. That's that small 1.1 acre of vines who produce very exceptional fruits. We're all about Tractor and Vines, the best rosé in the country. But I want to say it's time to stop thinking of Fruitvale Ridge as an afterthought, because this wine is coming on his own big time. The progression in terms of definition, in terms of his own style, because Fruitvale Ridge now has his own defined style. And Karen is mentioning about salinity, the little saltiness on Tractor and Vine. And this year, in the 2022, I believe that what stands out in that Fruitvale Ridge, it's that very, like, that's the sublime, beautiful salinity, that's minerality of the vineyard, who shows up after the mid palate, make that wine much more serious and brings it to the Tractor and Vines level. So let's stop treating Fruitvale Ridge as the little brother. It's coming on his own, and the quality of this wine, like we'll see on the national stage, Fruitvale Ridge, sooner rather than later. I'm telling you, this wine coming up on his own, and it's worth thinking. It's time to switch our brain in terms of Tractor and Vines, Tractor and Vines, Tractor and Vines. Yes, Tractor and Vines is still the royalty of Rosé, but let's not discount Fruitvale Ridge. I think it's
Totally.
absolutely.
And Karen's saying, can't wait to try the Fruitvale Ridge. You know what, Karen, I believe you are possibly coming out to try the whole vertical going back to 2012.
No,
I think
we just thought about it. We thought about it 45 minutes ago. Maybe not with Karen, but with Karen's outer half.
Yeah, we have like four or five spots left. If anyone is thinking to come to the Okanagan this summer, July 29th is the day to come if you haven't picked your dates yet, because that is that Rosé historic Rosé vertical we're having. And so you just gave me an idea, Karen. Maybe we should have that Fruitvale Ridge, even though it's not part of the vertical. Maybe we should be able to taste it for people that want to try it that day.
We may know a few people there that can pull off some strings.
Yeah, Daniel the winemaker is on with us, and he's saying yes. So,
well, there's also Clay Martin. Clay's tuning in tonight as well, and Clay is already in for the tasting as well. So, you know what? There's going to be a heck of a lineup of wine, but a heck of a lineup of people. It's going to be a night for the ages, a night for the memory book. I can tell right now. So. I already hijacked your show way too much, Mira.
No, I love it. And you know what? We were just going to talk about the vines, so we'll go there in a second. We'll let you go. I'm sure you have, what is it, like 6 a.m. there?
No, it's 8:20. I was down at the restaurant since 6:30. We had our first meeting. We ate a lot, and I'm going to go back down to meet with our staff. The staff they all arrived late last night, so I'm going to go say hi to everyone. We have our first meeting with the hotel a little later on. So
I love Vicky's idea. If we could, I would love to do that, but I know Daniel's got very few left of his older vintages, so I don't even know how many more times he'll be able to do this kind of vertical. Although, since Daniel's on, we got to say, like, this is such a cool thing to be able to go back that many years and try the same rosé.
It's never been done before, Mira Boucher. It's never been done before.
But what I'm saying to Daniel is I hope you keep it up. I hope you keep adding to your library so we can do it every year, not just this year, and keep going back as far back as we can. All right.
Absolutely.
Have an amazing day, Carl Boucher. Enjoy Singapore. I will look at it from here, this view. There you go.
This is fantastic. You are the best. Yes, I will. It's going to be a busy day here today, so I'll keep you posted. That is for sure. Okay.
Amazing. Yes. We'll chat soon. Thanks, Carl Boucher.
Enjoy the show, you guys.
Awesome. So yeah, let's turn our attention for a quick second back to the vines, because Daniel will start talking about that in the interview. So when we got there, one of the other, I don't know, I've lost count now. I said I learned at least 5 really cool things. Well, one of the other things was the state of the vines. Down in where Daniel's new Solum Rosa Vineyard is, where he planted Grenache, which is great for rosé and really rare, I think, in Canada. He planted that a couple of years ago. Everyone, of course, was very concerned because this last winter, where his vineyard is, they had minus 29. And I believe around minus 25, that's when vines can die. So first thing we learned is that part of the vineyard looks good, so this was Daniel showing us, I think, a vine that is looking good. And it's been a few weeks since we shot this, so I think it's in bud break now. But here's a vine, really interesting, that is not looking great.
Yeah, up in the cold, so I don't know, we'll see.
So you can see the
So
black
I've
there.
left a couple, right, renewals from last year. So I left that, I left the previous one, spurred that, left as many canes as I'll see if something comes out, right?
Yeah, so Daniel was saying that maybe up to 60% of certain varietals were affected by that frost damage. So that is too bad, but we will see how he manages it over the next couple of years, and hopefully everything can recover beautifully in time. And let's get right into it. With this interview. So thanks for stopping by, guys. Enjoy what Daniel has to say. He's in the comments, so this is pretty cool that we've got him tuned in, at least for now. And so drop your comments and questions in there for him, and we'll see you real soon.
So here we are. Sometimes in life you have the privilege to be with some people that you love talking about wines. And I'm with here Daniel Bontorin, owner, winemaker at Seventh Direction and Bottega Wine Studio. Daniel, good evening.
How are you doing, Carl?
I'm doing absolutely great. Listen, it's beautiful outside. It's rosé season. And when we talk about rosé season, we talk about freshness. We talk about spring. We talk about the beautiful weather coming up. And everyone gets excited. And to me, when I talk about rosé season, come up in my mind, it's always when it's the new release of Tractor and Fruitvale Ridge. So we're here. Jeez, it's right there. So we have it available now, like with the club. So thanks for joining me, because I want to touch base with you for a while now. I was so excited of the 2022 vintage, and it is in my glass right now. So here we are. Tell me a little bit more about the 2022 season.
Well, geez, it was such a late start, wet and cool, almost.
I don't think you were the only one to pull your hair and wondering what the heck is going to happen all the way until July, right? You guys were all so worried.
Almost a month late, some cases
This is
even more. And just over the years, it's been, a certain time of year, you get a break, you get your shoots come out, and nothing was coming out. It was almost like, oh my God, is the whole entire vineyard dead? That's literally what it was last year. And then all of a sudden things started coming up, and then it was like, oh, okay, there's no fruit. There's some fruit here. There's no fruit there. But, in the end, everything grew nice. Low crops, but the cluster sizes were massive just because of the right quantity of rainfall at the right times, the sunshine at the right time. So actually the yields were comparable to a full crop on half a crop. So it was quite.
So all because of the berries were
very
bigger than usual, right?
So extra juicy, tons of flavor. The skins were nice and light. You'll see a lot lighter rosés this year, not just ours. Really nice flavors across the board. Very intense, finesse more so than big bursting fruit, because there wasn't a lot of heat units, because it was the cooler vintage. We had a really, really great fall, which basically
made up for the stressful first part, right?
Everything ripened, so that was good.
No, that's one of the key. And I think it's such a good news after that. Again, 2021 was so up and down. We go from a heat dome early on, and the following vintage, you're like, nothing's happening until July. So it must be nerve-wracking at some point.
Well, it was so compact that, labor shortages, it's hard to get stuff with, shipping and such, and everything started growing at once, and you had literally just days to complete items instead of spread it over a week and a half or so. So it was a big challenge to find people and also get the tasks in the vineyard done at an appropriate amount of time. So it was very compact vintage. I'm hoping this year is going to be a little bit more spread out. So.
Yeah, no doubt. And especially for rosé, I mean, timing is so critical, correct?
Yeah.
It's not like about like the red, you let it ripe as much as possible, you let it there, and longer is better. And now rosé, it's all about timing, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we had one of the best Octobers, third week September, mid-October that we've had in a really long time. And then the coolness came, the cooler weather came. So the sugar levels basically froze, and it was all flavors. So this year was actually really nice. You had a nice long time to decide, okay, when to pick. The acids weren't falling out, the sugars weren't going up. Versus most years, you have just within a few days to decide if you're going to pick, and then otherwise, especially rosé, you lose that window of balance between
the acid, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's good. So okay. Let's get backtracked. This is number 60. Can you believe that? This is number 60. This is crazy. So people were listening. They're like, what do you mean number 60? Well, folks, let me tell you, this wine, this vintage, we're talking about the 60th rosé that Daniel is putting in the bottle. Like I would say maybe 5-7 years ago, he got the nickname of the Rosé guy in Western Canada, and not by fluke, because this guy has been focusing on rosés for so long. So number 60, is the number right, Daniel? Number 60?
Number 59 and 60. Tractor 60 in Fruitvale. We got 59. Since 2005, we made the first rosé at Le Vieux-Pain. Called Vilas, and it was an instant hit. Rosé wasn't even popular back then. It was just I guess kind of on its own. So anyways, we made a really good wine that year in 05, and from there I love the complexity of making the rosé. It's not just you get your whites, you press, and you ferment. With rosé, it's all about timing of acidity, sugar, color, right? You want to farm specifically for rosé. Crop loads. If your crop's too low, then your skins are too dark. So you have to make adjustments for your crushing and your amount of time you press, and it's quite complex actually wine. And we're talking about rosé, not in any blush form as far as adding white wine to.
Oh, that's it. That's it. The big difference. It's such an amazing transition between, okay, let's go back in the 80s with Ernest and Julio Gallo, the white Zinfandel, the sugary blush, and all that. And after that, we had the movement of the Saigné method, right? Like bleeding the tank to give a little bit more concentration to the red. And they'll say, well, we have a byproduct, is the rosé. But going all the way back to Provence for generations, they have their way of the press method of making wine, the rosé wine, purposefully, making it with like the purpose of making, especially the rosé, not a byproduct of anything else. So for you, at which stage of your career, because you went to school, and right away out of school, you got to the Vieux-Pain, and boom, this instant success with Vila. So at which stage of your career you decided that that's what I want to do?
Well, it just seemed to be, certain techniques that always do well, right? Some varieties you're good at just because, it's either it's a flavor profile that you really like, or the way it's farmed and such. But rosé just really seemed to resonate with me, and I love the complexity on how it was made. I spent more of my time in the cellar on rosé than any other type of wine, whether it be sparkling, white, or red. I made them all. Ice wine, rosé is like 20 hours a day checking temperatures nonstop during the day, being on point with everything, cooling, when to pick, how long to soak, whole cluster, you name it. So,
Well, we talk about precision, right? Precision in the viticulture, precision in terms of crop, precision in terms of cellar, everything to make a pinpoint rosé. I believe if you ask me what's the one descriptive you'll use, you mean about precision on everything, right?
Yeah, precision and timing.
Timing, yeah, I guess. Eh?
And experience.
Absolutely.
I started out with the Saignée method because that, back then the rosés were richer, they were fatter. But over time, actually, my transition point was when I went from, making the huge reds at Le Vieux Pin La Stella, and I went to Volcanic Hills in West Kelowna, which there is dramatic varieties. You got Zweigelt, you got Riesling, you got Gewürztraminer, and it's all about acidity. So
you go from Syrah and like Bordeaux blend,
yeah,
all the way back to the Eastern Europe style. Oh my God, that gets a drastic change right there.
And my alcohol tolerance actually started to go down. I was like, these wines are tasting hot. The ones I used to make, wow, these are kind of tasting hot, because my palate was getting accustomed to these 11% alcohols and 12% alcohols. So when I started Seven Directions in 2012 with the first vintage, I had 2 years making wine in West Kelowna under the the higher acidity, the lower pHs, and I really liked that. So I made adjustments in how I made rosé. So, and nobody's ever had a rosé exclusive, either label or winery in across Canada that I know of. Even now, I don't think. But
Yeah, exclusively on rosé, and that's when Seven Direction was born.
yeah, and then it was Christine and I and our blended family of with the 5 kids, and everybody's going in different directions in life, and they have their own their own visions and styles, and so, and I knew I wanted a rosé brand. I said, lavender is the flower of Provence. I love lavender. I love purple. So hence the there you go, lavender. Yeah.
That's the lavender here. That's the lid of and that's the label. I mean, it's all about finesse. It's all about precision and timing, just like the brand. Because when the Seven Direction was born,
2012, first vintage.
so 2012 was the first vintage, and when you started, as the vision was to focus single vineyard, single varietal, or it just happened that way, or it was the purpose right out of the gate.
It was purpose made. That was the start of the single vineyard kind of, not necessarily the rosé, but in general in the industry of starting to experiment with single vineyards, either single varietal or single clone and such like that. So I want to start out with Pinot Noir, because Pinot Noir, not only was I making at Le Vieux Pin, but it has the highest potential of making the best rosé, in my opinion. The acidity, the skins are light already, but it is the one of the hardest grapes to farm. So.
Well, and when we talk about like absolutely no room for mistake, I mean like going with Pinot, this is not giving yourself a lot of room for failure right there. Like they had to work right out of the gate. Did you have any knowledge about the vineyard that you were getting after?
Not necessarily. Fruitvale Ridge, we started in 2015. You get the grapes and you kind of use your knowledge and your philosophy right out the gate and figure, okay, whether it's a hot vintage or you can make adjustments and such. So we started in 15 with Fruitvale, and we slowly made adjustments. Alcohol's come down, the sugar levels when we a little bit lower.
I mean, like there's a very there's a finesse, there's a salinity, there's as much complexity as I've ever find in Fruitvale. I've been it's my fourth vintage now of Fruitvale, really, really like dissecting what's happening in there, and it's just inching closer and closer and closer every year from the tractor, who is the flagship, I would say, but we want it or not. It's sometimes I think the critics, or we kind of all agree that Rosé is the tractor is becoming one of the top most sought after Rosé in the country, and but wow. Fruitvale is just getting closer and closer in terms of style as well.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? We're getting more knowledge every year about the vineyard and doing small tweaks in the cellar, fermentation, temperature wise and such. I don't use barrels on Fruitvale. It's strictly stainless. So that creaminess and that texture too is from, the batonnage in the tank of stirring the lees and those leave it extended fermentation on the lees after post fermentation. So there's a lot of vineyards there that have potential. You just have to be able to spend time with the vineyard and have we work with excellent growers. We're thrilled to be able to get the fruit every year, and not a lot of wineries can do that because there's always either contract issues or the vineyard sells or something like that. So usually, unless you own your own vineyard, you can really stylistically concentrate.
Yeah.
But the Iqbal, the Gill family they're super nice. I mean, they give it, they let us pick the different lots that we want out of the vineyard.
And do you usually walk the vineyard during the growing season? You do your
absolutely.
Yeah.
Basically from fruit set, which is where the berries start to form. They have their growing methods. We trust how they grow, and it seems to regulate itself as far as yield. So we're not too concerned about yield. Some years a little bit higher, maybe half a ton more an acre is not a big deal. It's quite a steep slope vineyard. There's lots of rock and shale. It gets lots of shade in the afternoon in the summertime. So the fruit up top, they're smaller clusters, they're more concentrated. And then the bottom of the slopes are fatter berries because all the water, natural drainage of water. So the berries are naturally large. And the blend of picking them, when you pick them, we do go through every week during harvest. We just start first week of September. We check all the vineyards. We have a starting point of sugar, acid, pH, and then from there you track. And every year seems to be within a week time frame. So, it's a good indication of, and then it's fine tuning when you hit those numbers. Should we pick it? Maybe we can leave it a little bit longer. And then there's, of course, the weather factor.
Is there a number or prevail on the other one? Is there the one that you say that is it the acid, is it the sugar, or it's always the combination? Is it the meat point between these, or there's always one number that you can't fuck up that year?
Well, that particular vineyard, it's at the border of Oliver Suyas. So the pH is naturally higher, which means the acidity is lower. So we're usually getting anywhere from 5 to low 6 grams per liter acid. So we get that every year regardless what the sugar level is. But we're also shooting for an alcohol point, because the alcohol also plays a role in the flavor of the wine and brings it all together. Right? A lot of that complexity in Fruitvale is partially due to the alcohol. Because alcohol has viscosity, has perception of sweetness sometimes.
That's where the body, we're talking about the body, light body, medium body, full body. A lot is about the alcohol.
Yeah. So we're shooting for 22.5 to 23.5 sugar, bricks of sugar, which usually falls in the 3, 4, 5 pH range, and then anywhere. Some years are really low, the acid just drops out, but anywhere 4.5 to 6 type acid. But the flavors are, I mean, people who have had fruit veil every year and you smell this, it's fruit veil. Like it's there. You get the Cab Franc, and then you just know it's fruit veil. We've got everything from sage. Some years we actually had seashell.
Oh, then there's seashell this year. Like I own the 22, and there's that salinity. That's the seashell. There's that classic peach mandarin as well. A little bit of strawberry. Yeah, this is really, really classic this year.
And very soft on the nose. When you smell it, I know people say, well, you can't smell soft, but it's just when you smell it, you get a perception of this, just a softness that comes on you, and the wine's going to be rich in texture.
Absolutely. Well, and is that because now, like you're used to the site, you're used to your grower. Was there any specific vintage who really gave you grief about that very specific vineyard? Like in your whole progression to get here in 2022, is there one vintage like, yeah, this one was real pain in the ass?
Let's see. We started in 15. I would say, I believe it was 17 or 18. There was this pocket in the vineyard on about halfway up, and they just couldn't get enough water that year, and the berries were so small, just teeny tiny, and we weren't really getting the numbers we wanted and such. So that year actually we decided to pick, normally we have 8 rows. It's a 3.5 acre portion of the vineyard, so we get 8 rows, and then another winery gets the other rows. So it's funny because that was the year that I started deciding on either we pick everything that way, or we go halfway and then we go this way.
Okay. Like the more perpendicular.
Right, depending on the berry size, the amount of juice it had. Because also with the rosé, I mean, there's there is a certain price point to it, but at the same time you want to get the yield out of the juice. So that year the berries were so small up top, we would have gotten nothing. So we decided to pick the bottom portion, and funny enough, after a couple vintages of doing that, the other wineries like, oh, we want the bottom half too. Because they saw the rosé that was being made out of there, and then slowly they started to take more grapes for their rosé, which would eventually get blended with other stuff.
Awesome. I like little each and everyone's book, right? I know there's always one vintage has been like giving you like, oh, this one I remember. So that's cool. So this is about Fruit Veil. So this year, Fruit Veil, like I mentioned earlier, it's the closest that I've got from the big brother so far. You mentioned it, richness. It's also sophisticated. There's a complexity in there, that seashell salinity, and I love there's a white peach aspect with that hint of like ripe strawberry, juicy. This to me is the crowd pleaser. This to me is the one that is not as cerebral and geeky as the brother at Tractor and Vines, the one that you want to sit there and dissect in every single aspect. This one is a little bit like that, the crowd pleaser, and it goes with food tremendously, beautiful with the food. For me, this is my barbecue guy. Like I love like things with grilled sausage or some stuff like that. So big hit. I really, really, really enjoyed that. Again, 100% stainless steel. And the other part of your program, that's what now, like everyone, like when I talk to people in the industry or people who are BC wine fanatic, Tractor and Vines is becoming something like I use sometimes these words like really, really little, but cult. And cult to me apply to a very few projects. Nota Bene is one of them because it's been like one of the sought after. But now Tractor and Vines, Pinot Noir, Rosé, it's become like that cult following among BC wine lovers. And 2022 is at the height of this game. It's just like absolutely wonderful. Last year made my top 10 wine of the year. Now we're seeing score reaching heights. And when I seen some people like I'm not gonna mention name, but say, oh, I can't give more than 90 points to a rosé because it's only rosé and it's not serious. I get mad. I get freaking I get irritated at the highest level because like we're talking about like this. There's a seriousness in winemaking. There's a precision, and Tractor and Vines. Now you're moving from your Cap Franc project all the way at the border, Osoyoos, Oliver, right in the middle of the desert, the hottest spot in the country. And Tractor and Vines, the Pinot Noir, it's right up in Summerland, middle of the Okanagan Valley, right by the lake on the Okanagan. I think it's a stone's throw away from my home, for God's sake. If I knew anything about viticulture, I'll say, Daniel, I can't take care of the vineyard. Don't worry about this one. I got it covered. I'm way too scared to fuck that up. You've been working this plot of land too good for me to be involved. So I will keep tasting it every year. But what's so special with Tractor?
We'll get you in there this year. So
yes.
Well, it's you're speaking of cult, and literally this is 1 acre parcel. The only vineyard in Trout Creek, down on that stone's throw from the lake, literally a property and a half away from the lake. Water table is very low, very high anyways. So it's about 8-10 feet. I've never irrigated since I took over the property in 2016. It regulates itself as far as growth, water capacity. It's also it's not the easiest place to farm. For one, it's the vineyards in multi-million-dollar properties and
in between homes, it's like a surreal vision when you walk by. It's like, what is there a little vineyard there?
The property is landscaped all the time. They have professional landscapers and property managers and stuff like that. There's also the fact that I have to keep it's not just a vineyard out in the bush or on the slopes. It's in these multi-million-dollar homes. So I have to keep the front very special. I pick up all the canes, all the clippings by hand. I rake all the leaves that fall down. It's very tedious, but it just produces a phenomenal wine. I mean, it's the cool nights, hot days. You get the lake effect. We haven't any damage whatsoever there. From the minus 25, 26 that we had, and it's the soil is glacial deposits from 10, 15,000 years ago. You dig down further and the sand, it almost looks like I wouldn't say limestone, but if you ever held limestone and you crush it and it becomes all yellowy and powdery,
like the shell, right?
There's a layer of that in there. There's a big saltiness, which I love in Tractor, and actually the saltiness comes from volcanic soil. So there is a volcano in the area, extinct, of course, but there's a book that was published that the saltiness you can only find in volcanic soil. So we definitely know there's volcanic soil in that. There's a beautiful saltiness, the acidity, very much higher acidity than Fruitvale. So
absolutely,
like Fruitvale at 22.5 bricks, we're at 5.5, 6 acid. At Tractor, we're sometimes 8.5 acid. And just that combination of sugar and acidity, it just has this silkiness right after bottling even. It's just this creaminess of Fruitvale has a creaminess, but the precision and the I call it it's definitely sexier for sure than Fruitvale.
Oh, And you're speaking my wife's language right now. Like this is absolutely what she's been saying for years. This is the sexiest wine of the every release every year. That's like this, that sexiness. To me, I don't use that term here and that wine to me. And if I compare last year and this year, last year there was an explosion of fruit. This year, this is the precision of flavor. The definition of each and every flavors, it's absolutely astonishing how precise and defined that the whole border around every single aspect of that wine is so defined and so precise. It's incredible. And the complexity. You're hitting yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, that's attributed to the season. We had such a long growing season, and the sugars never got out of hand, and it was all flavor building, and like you say, precision, precise flavors, without being too fat.
Yeah.
One of the things you want to do with rosé, and not so much the style it is, but you want to have texture and creaminess without being heavy. So if you can do that, you have a really special property, because anybody can get a heavy alcohol, but to get a lower alcohol wine with that much acidity and that much texture without being a weighty wine, it's a pretty special place. And we lease that ourselves, so we farm it 100%, full control. We have we have control on every aspect of the growing, and I think that plays a big role in the quality as well.
Oh, and so at which point in your philosophy that the oak, the barrel usage came into the play? Was it from right out of the gate, right out of school, when you were at Le Vieux Pain, Estelle, you were working with barrel for rosé, or it just happened throughout the years when you said, maybe I will throw a little bit of barrel ferment here, a little bit of barrel aging here? How does that happen? Because my whole point here is, in Tractor, there's a little bit of oak, but it's so subtle,
yeah,
and it's so well integrated that it's not something that you pick up on the nose or something. No, it's you find it on the palate in terms of softness. But where is that barrel usage came into the philosophy?
Well, just a touch point on your Tractor, the barrels that we use for Tractor. I use neutral barrels, so it's a tool to bring texture and creaminess. Back in 2012, I started using new oak, and I 25 liters, and then I moved to 500-liter barrels because it was a little too. You tasted it.
I'm again here, like, yeah, I know.
The 225s were a little too toasty, but basically, nobody had used. For one, come out with a rosé brand, and two, have never used barrels, new French oak in rosé, and actually got my inspiration from Sassa Lynch from Chateau des Clans in Provence. I saw pictures on their website, and they had all these 500-liter barrels, and each one had these stainless cooling snakes, and they were all temperature controlled, every single one, all dialed in. And they were getting, 96 points, 97 points, and they were 150 euros, 200 euros. I got really excited, so I need to try that. So that's what I did, and I bought cooling snakes. I had temperature controls for every single barrel. It was only 2 barrels, but I mean, it's
Still.
it's a start, right? And as the vineyard changed, because we started out with Kalala Vineyard, which was the first 3 or 4 vintages.
So that was from West Kelowna, right? We're talking about West Kelowna, further away from the lake, a completely different side. That it's maybe 35 minutes south of where you ended up in Summerlin, right?
Right. And the weight that the wines had, they could afford to have the extra new oak in it. But then when I got to Tractor and I tasted the juice right away on the first pressing in 2016, I was like, we can't use new oak.
Yeah, that's the elegance. It was too elegant, right?
It had everything already. So okay, we're going to use neutral barrels and just use it as a tool to shape the texture and finesse. So.
And you use oak in every vintage of tractor?
Yeah.
Yeah. At the different is it more now as a third plant, or is there or you go with vintage? Like this year I'll need a little bit more, this year a little bit less. How do you play with? Where's your decision is made?
Well, 2021.
2021 is the vintage of the crazy heat dome.
Yes. So we definitely use less new oak. I think we only used 2 barrels instead of 4. So it only is 30%. And also we didn't use any hard press that year. I sacrificed all the hard press. It was just too dark. So
okay.
I didn't want to change the perception of because for me, color is everything. And when you're farming for rosé, you have everything. You have the flavors, you have the fruit. So your concentration from as soon as you get the grapes, it's all about the crushing the color. So tractors, anywhere from 0 whole cluster pressing, where we have the clusters and completely whole press them, or 2 hours skin contact. We don't do any more than 2 hours. We could do half and half whole cluster. If it's sometimes they come out completely, clear with a yellow tinge and there's no color. It's like, okay, well, this next batch, let's crush it, soak it for 2 hours, then it comes together and you have this.
Get a little tinge, right?
But in general, it's about 30% French oak that we ferment. Yeah. Neutral French oak.
Neutral ferment, not only age, you ferment that's because there's a big difference between oak ferment and oak aging.
Big difference in flavors and stylistic textures.
Yeah.
If you ferment even for Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc, if you ferment in stainless first, then when it's finished, you put it in barrel, you're getting it toasty everything. So if you're fermenting, it slowly integrates, and you can actually pinpoint when either you're getting too much, maybe toastiness or such. But the neutral barrels, they have very, very little. We're talking, 5-7-year-old barrels. So, yeah. So basically, a tool to make those textures. And some vineyards can handle the oak, and like Tractor, the new oak, and Tractor just it would ruin the what Tractor vines is, right?
That was really like the finesse and the elegance and the complexity. You don't want a layer of like it doesn't fit the profile. And I'm with you because the elegance of Tractor, the finesse of Tractor is unparalleled across the country. 93 plus this year. And again, like I was debating, I was so close to I've never been as close to a 94 for a rosé that I've ever been. It's just like, geez, it was so close. Amazing. 93 plus. The result is absolutely amazing. How many cases of that do you had produce?
Well, it's an acre, so anywhere from 220 to 240 cases. So that's all. We don't. And also being single vineyard, single varietal, it's you get what you get. So
that's it, right?
If you farm it wrong, then it's going to show in your rosé. There's no it's too dark. Let's throw some white wine in there, or Pinot from a different vineyard, or it is what it is, and that's why I love rosé, because it's difficult to make exceptional rosé. I mean,
and for the people.
Hardest style of wine to make.
No doubt, absolutely. And there's no room for mistake. They just mentioned if you mess it up, it's sorry. See you next year. And you know what? For the folks who follow your work now for a year in and year out, you absolutely nailed it this year. It's incredible. Yeah. So. One more thing I wanted to mention: the collar. The collar this year, you move absolutely on point. That's the most Provençal that we've seen so far. It's close to that Provence, like just that little peach salmony. Especially Tractor is just like absolute perfection. It's incredible.
And actually, Fruit Veil was whole cluster pressed. So. They're almost identical color, but Fruit Veil was whole cluster, and Tractor was soaked for 2 hours. right? Because Cabernet Franc has darker skins.
Absolutely,
So
right?
treat it differently than Pinot versus, you know, even Merlot, or, you know, if you make a Malbec Rosé or Cabernet Sauvignon, right? All those dark varieties, you have to really take care in how you process your fruit as well.
Absolutely. And I just want to throw a hint out there because there's something that we've been talking about and putting together. Something unique is coming up at some point this summer. We're going to launch that date very soon, but there's no one ever in the history of that country who has saved 12 years of 12 vintages of rosé, single vineyard, single varietal. And Danielle, when I visited with you a couple weeks ago, I saw the stack of box and I was like, what is that? Is that, well, that's my library. I'm saving some cases. Talking to put a 12 vintage of Tractor and Vines together. And you as the builder, like the person who made these wines, and together we're going to do a little very special tasting. So that part I am so freaking excited about. Taste 12 years back to back of Tractor and Vines.
Pinot, actually, we have different vineyards, so yeah.
That's right. 12 vintages of Pinot from two different vineyards. It's going to be absolutely epic.
Different styles, different techniques. You know, 225-liter brand new French oak, 500-liter brand new French oak, neutral barrels, no barrels. It's all, yeah, it's going to be awesome.
This is like your book, right? The book of evolution of Pinot Noir Rosé from Daniel Bontorin is going to be right there on display. We're going to be a stone throw away from Tractors for that tasting. So So stay tuned, all of you out there. I know now that people are listening right now are like, what are you talking about? When? Where? Like, people are getting excited. I can see it. We're going to get back to you with more information but this is in the making. Stay tuned. And Danielle, last thing that I want to tell our people, because it's deserved, be talking about a little bit. You've been working on your own winery, your own facility for quite a while now. Yeah. The dream is coming true. You're so close. We sat there, we tasted the wine, everything is almost ready to go. So where exactly are you located? You're in the Similkameen Valley.
We're in the Similkameen Valley in Coston. So when you come up from Vancouver, you hit Caramias, and instead of going towards Penticton, you're going to head towards Osoyoos. And we're not too far out from Caramias. Beautiful. We have 5-acre property, 3.5 acres planted. We've got Cabernet Franc, Pinot Noir, 2 clones. We have Grenache.
Grenache, because you're the rosé guy and your inspiration is Provence. You need some Grenache, and who else than you to plant a freaking vineyard with Grenache in there in the Similkameen? That is so cool.
Hopefully it survived the winter. So the goal, our focus is rosé. I mean, we have our 2 other brands as well under the Bottega Wine Studio umbrella, but our focus is rosé. Our state vineyard is Solum Rosa, which is Latin for exclusively rosé. So it's actually quite a nice fit. So we're just happy. We got, a little bit of fruit last year on the second and third leaf, so not much we could do about anything. So we really haven't been able to see what our vineyard can do. And we're super excited about the acidity levels, the long, cool nights, the flavors we're going to get. And yeah, it's going to be.
The Similkameen on its own, it's its own terroir. I mean, it's very different than what you got down in the south of the Okanagan.
It's going to be completely different from both vineyards. Yeah. So we're talking high end rosé. We're not, talking,
Oh yeah, we're talking about some stuff who are going to be like, what are we talking about here? It's going to be unique and special. I just can't wait to be able to have the official words that you guys are 100% open, but man, that you're close. It's so close.
Yeah, maybe a few months. Hopefully by summer we're shooting for. So yeah.
So Danielle, thank you for your time. This is amazing. Talking rosé with you, it's always something special for Mira and I. And thank you very much. And guys, get at it. It's Rosé week. It's 7 Direction week.
It's hot out.
That's it. There's 2 single vineyard, 2 single varietals. The unique project of 7 Direction. We have it here for this week only. So get at it. It's gonna fly out the window. Fly out really, really quick. So Danielle,
try it and let me know what you think, guys.
oh, absolutely. Thank you very much, Danielle. You have a good rest of your evening. We'll talk very soon. Thanks a million.
You too, Carl. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Enjoy
Thank
the
you.
weather. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, Canadian wine lovers, hope you have a great Wine Wednesday, and it was so great to see y'all. The next 3 weeks, Carl is away for Wine Wednesday. He'll pop in like he did today. He's in Singapore, and then he's in Bali. Lucky guy. So next week, sneak a peek. We are featuring a winery that we went wild over, Clausen Chase, out of Prince Edward County, I believe. And there is an amazing interview with their winemaker coming up next Wednesday. And I wanted to say, I would like for the next 3 weeks, while we're doing a bit of the Mira show, I would like to hear from you guys and maybe have some of you on live with us. There are 3 myths we identified about Canadian wine, and I would love to dispel them in the next 3 weeks, like maybe 1 a week or something like that. So one of the myths is that Canadian wine can't age well. So if you have like an aged wine in your cellar and you are willing to open it live with us, I would love it if you can open that live with us and talk about it on a show like this in the next 3 weeks. Another myth is that we can't make great red wine in Canada. This is not a myth, I believe, or probably any of you believe, but this is a commonly held myth because people think Canada is full of snow and cold and there's no way we can ripen red grapes and make like rich, bold wines. Well, guess what? We have a desert in Canada. So that is a myth we need to dispel. We have amazing bold red wines. So if you're willing to open one of your bold red wines and hop on the show with me in the next 3 weeks and tell us about that wine, I would love to have you drop by. And another myth, what are these? We put these in the VIP group, right, as a poll, and these were the top 3 that came up. The other myth, the third one, is that a lot of people think Canadian wines are overpriced. Okay, so they say, oh, I look at Chilean wines, I look at, Argentinian wines, they're way cheaper than Canadian wines, so I'm going to buy those. Well, guess what? In Carl's Wine Club, we have found some outstanding value wines in the $10 to $20 a bottle category. So I'd love to help dispel that myth live as well, maybe by having some Canadian wines in that value category we found to really over-deliver for their price with the same price point from other places in the world. Yeah, so amazing to chat with you guys. We will see you next Wine Wednesday, and I hope you have an amazing evening. Cheers. Chat soon.